The life of a real estate agent almost sounds too good to be true. Work for yourself, set your own hours, hang out in mansions all day, and make millions. But did you know 80% of real estate agents fail in their first year? So what does it take to actually be successful in this field? Today, we are going to sit down with my good friend, James Malone, and navigate the world of a real estate agent. Hi, I'm Red Younger, and this is It's My Job to Know Yours. Hit it.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I'm happy to be here.
You look great. Just you're radiant today.
I mean, I get it all from you, man.
Stop. We're like 30 seconds in and already I'm just like, it's too much. I can't believe you made it out here today. It's like torrential downpours. I thought for sure you would cancel, but you're a man of your word, and here you are.
Hey, I did think about it.
Did you?
Yeah, I kind of let you down, man.
I feel flattered. I mean, look, in the end of the day, I would have understood, but I'm really glad you made it. I'm glad you're here in studio. I'm super excited about this episode because I know nothing about real estate, and I'm excited for you to like educate me on the world of,
I'm ready to dive into it, man. Let's go.
I'm ready. I think here's the thing. I think that this is going to be a successful episode if by the end of it, I'm ready to buy a house from you.
I mean, you might be. I don't know. I mean, you say you're ready, but you got to make sure your credit and your money's in order.
No, I'm definitely not ready emotionally, mentally. Like even like buying a pair of pants, I'm like, do I really need this? Do I don't. Whatever. It's fine. So it's actually really crazy to me because I was thinking about that yesterday, like how people make these decisions of purchasing a house. Like I was really thinking about it. And I could never imagine buying a house. And I know that you're buying a house like now-ish, soon.
Well, I mean, buying a house, it is the biggest purchase of your life. So it is something that you're going to have to like really wrap your head around and know like, oh my God, this is the biggest purchase. Like, what do I do after? Where's this money going to go? But
it's, what would you say is a bigger decision, buying a house or getting married?
Ooh, that is a good question.
They kind of go hand in hand, right?
Yeah. I would say it's definitely easier to buy a house.
All right.
Yeah.
explains why you're buying a house and are still single.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Did you know about this statistic that 80% of real estate agents fail in their first year?
I did not know that.
Right, and I think
but I guess I'm not surprised because I've known a few agents fail and quit and move on to something else, but I also know a whole bunch of agents that were successful and still are. And I feel like I'm like in the middle of like I'm like up getting up to where that success is.
Well, I mean,
it takes a lot of years to like really build your clientele and everything. Because at least for me, like I get the most business off referrals. So like friends of friends, family, friends of the family, everything. And them just telling, hey, do you know an agent? Like, oh, yeah, my good friend this, my nephew or something like that. And as long as you market yourself the right way, like you can definitely find success in the industry, but you have to put the work in. Like you can't just, it's not just you're going into mansions and everything's luxurious the whole time.
Drinking champagne.
And I feel like people have that perception of what real estate is. It's just where they see all the nice things about it. They're like, oh, look, you're checking out this house. Like, you're going to these beautiful spots, these beautiful locales. And they don't know, like, what it takes. Like, you see stuff on Facebook, you see stuff on Instagram, but they don't know, like, the nitty-gritty of, like, what goes into it and how stressful it can be.
Well, first and foremost, I think that you're successful. You're past your first year, so you already broke that statistic.
Yes, I
so
did.
congratulations.
4 years
on
in,
that.
by the way. 4 years.
To me, 4 years in, that's a significant amount of time. Is this your like career for life, or is this something that you're kind of doing for now?
Career for life.
Okay, so you see, so then you're set up for success, because I think that a lot of like a lot, all these things that you mentioned about putting in the work, it's not as glamorous as it sounds or whatever it is. I think that a lot of people, like, especially in the real estate world, right? and you said you rely on referrals, right? Because I was really thinking about it yesterday, and it's like, there is no such thing as a repeat customer because you're making a purchase for life. Unless you're doing investment properties and other stuff like that, you're not getting a repeat client, right? The same way that someone else has customers who are constantly buying from them. Once you sell to your buyer, that's it. You're done. And then maybe in 15, 20 years, they'll hit you up and be like, hey, I'm trying to resell this house. So there is no repeat customers in this business.
Yeah. Well, yes and no to that, because I feel like a lot of people who buy their first home, they consider like their starter home. And usually it'd be like a town, especially like the friends I have, like late 20s, early 30s. Their first home would usually be a townhome, and it would be just that home to like when they're starting to start a family and everything. And then 5 years later, they want to sell it and get a single family detached home. They want something bigger, more space, a yard and everything.
The American dream, white picket fence.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you'll be surprised that there actually are more repeat customers, and as long as you're keeping in touch, and that's why a lot of agencies do these client appreciation kind of parties and everything. Kind of, I don't want to say quarterly, but probably like semi-annually. They want to make sure that that hey, we still want to do business in the future. Like we still want to give you like a Thanksgiving Day pie or something like that. Which we do.
Do you actually do this? That the people who bought homes from you, you'll actually still like send them things and keep them kind of in the loop, and like even if they're not necessarily a close friend, but you're always kind of present somewhat in their life.
Yeah, and like to just like send reminders that hey, like I'm still a realtor, like because there's actually a lot of realtors who that will sell a house and then they'll never contact that client again. But for me, like I want to make sure I get that repeat business, and then that if they talk to some of their friends that are looking to buy a house, I'm the first person they think of. So I always make sure like to send them stuff in the mail, send them a calendar, or what we call a Popeyes. They could send like desserts, some recipes, but I know it sounds crazy, but as long as it has like your name, number, and your agency information, like it would just stay fresh in their mind that oh yeah, James is the go-to real estate guy.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends on Facebook who are real estate agents and stuff, and it is all day long marketing yourself. It's you rely on self-promotion, self-advertising, constantly having to hustle, it's like
there's no day offs.
There's no day offs.
No.
And that's kind of that misconception of that I started my opening monologue, where it's like people are like, oh, the perception that people have of a real estate agent is like, this is perfect. Like you set your own hours, work however much you want, sell a mansion or two, make some millions. But in reality, like you're putting, like how many hours a week do you put in to real estate?
I mean, I would say it's probably like a normal, maybe like 40 to 50 hour week. I mean, because most of 9 to 5s are 40 hours, but a lot of times you don't know like what those hours are going to be. Like they'll go late into nights, like maybe like past midnight for putting like some contracts together, and bye weekends. That's the big thing.
It's true. Every weekend I see on your Instagram constantly, like you're at this open house, you're at a closing, selling, doing so it's like, and then you have other projects you work on the side as well. James is also a little bit of a model and an actor and whatever, but claim to fame. But this is your bread and butter.
Yes.
So it is putting in all that time, all those hours. Late nights, like you said, weekends, like it's you, because you don't have a 9 to 5, you're technically always at work.
Right. Yeah. And you want to make sure your clients know that. So like whenever a house pops up, you want to be ready to go to show it to them. So it could be any time of the day.
How do you actually go about it? Because like you said, you rely on referrals. So like you're getting started in the world of real estate. Walk me through it. You get your license. Where do you go now? What do you do?
You find an agency that best fits your needs.
Which is?
Well, when I I don't want to go into the names of the agencies.
Okay. But I'm saying, which is your needs? What are your needs that you're looking for in an agency?
You just want to make sure that they provide you with the tools to help, I guess, market yourself. And if you need help in any way with other coworkers in the agency, that like they have your back. And you want to make sure the agency like could provide you leads, especially like just starting out. Like you really have to rely on friends or family for like that first home, because it's really hard to like once you get your license, like getting out there, because you want to make sure everyone knows that you're an agent now.
Right. And then on one hand, it's like you don't want to be spamming people
Right.
all day long with
It's a
social
fine
media.
line.
Like, by the way, I'm an agent. By the way, I'm an agent. Like, it becomes sort of like an MLM almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those multi-level marketing. Like, do you want to be a boss babe? Do you want to this? Like, and it's so, it's that fine line of like, keep me in mind, you know, whatever. But at the same time, I'm not trying to harass you all day. So how do you go about getting your first listings?
So a lot of times with friends, I would send them what you call a comparative market analysis. Mm-hmm. So you kind of send them, well, if they're looking to buy a home, if you like talk to them about certain areas where they're looking for and everything, you just be like, oh, well, you said you were looking over this area. Well, these homes just came on the market and they're priced around where your budget was. So you kind of just want to send them things that just to get them thinking about it. And then they'll end up doing like more research on their own. And then, you know, a lot of times they'll come back to me. It's like, hey, can we actually go see this one? And then once we go out there and see the house, we can get a better idea of what they're actually looking for in person. Because it's one thing like to see all the pictures and everything, but once you're there, you have a better idea in your mind like what you're looking for in that home you want to live in.
So when you're like you're starting out with this, you know, real estate, trying to sell, buy homes, whatever it is. So the first and foremost is you have to get the listing of a house.
Well, I mean, if you're selling, I mean, there's plenty of agents that just work with buyers.
And you were telling me, we had talked previously that there's listing agents and then the agents that have the
buyer
clients
agents
who are looking to buy a house, and you can't have both.
You can. Well, you can't have both on the same transaction.
Correct. So meaning you can't have a house that you have a listing to, and then
in the state of Maryland, you can't.
In the state of Maryland, you can't. So which one is more beneficial? Would you rather have the listing of a house, or would you rather have the buyers as your clients? Like which side of the coin would a real estate agent, or would you rather be on?
Well, depending on how the market is, like right now, it's a seller's market, so I would much rather have be on the listing side because you have so much more power, and as long as you price the house right, you're almost guaranteed it will sell.
What does that mean that it's a seller's market?
So the seller's market right now, there's a lot of buyers because of the low interest rates, and there's not a lot of inventory, meaning there's not a lot of homes for sale. So when you list a home and you have all these buyers looking to buy, you're pretty much guaranteed it will sell as long as it's priced at what the value should be of the home.
Gotcha. So it's not, because on one hand, it sounds to me that because there's not a lot of homes for sale,
they have the power.
Therefore, they have the power, so the prices will go up.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, that doesn't matter because the interest rates are lower. So even though the houses are priced higher, if the interest rates are lower, it's still a better deal and easier to get that mortgage.
Yeah, and the buyers, they think that way because they're like, oh, I'm so glad I can afford this home that I didn't think I could afford. I mean, it's like it's criminally low how low these interest rates are, because you could have someone who could only afford a $300,000 house now could potentially get $350,000.
Yeah, a lot of friends of mine actually bought their first homes during COVID, during quarantine, and like they were like, I don't know if I should or shouldn't, whatever. But it's like this is an amazing, amazing deal that like is once in a lifetime.
I mean, it's the craziest I've ever seen it since I've been an agent, and I've only been an agent for 4 years. I mean, even people who've been in the agency or the industry for 20 years, like they say it's the craziest since the market crashed. over 10 years ago.
What does that mean when the market crashes?
Well, the interest rates, they skyrocket.
And why?
The value of the homes, what they were then, significantly drop. So if they thought the home was was valued at 300, it could be valued like low 200s.
What would cause that?
Well, because of the loan officers giving out interest rates and everything that were technically illegal. It was a lot that goes into it.
I'm gonna have to.
We probably don't have time.
I'm gonna have to research it. No, I find it fascinating. I know that we have to like, in general, I have like a lot more to get through.
Watch the movie The Big Short.
All right, The Big Short.
That will give you all the answers you need.
Guess if I've seen it.
Red has not seen it.
I have not seen any. You and I, every time we hang out, you're always like making references to movies, and I'm just like, I literally, I don't watch movies ever. And you're like a big movie guy. So is Alan. Alan is like a movie.
Alan.
He's a movie buff. He's watched every movie under the sun. So I'm gonna have to get more into it. So you're starting out real estate agent. What was your first? Walk me through that. Walk me through the process of
my first deal.
Your first deal,
Yeah.
yes.
It was my parents. They sold. I helped them sell their income property in Baltimore City. It was very.
It's a rough city.
Well, no, not that. I mean, it's great, doing your first deal, but having it be your parents, you kind of. You're definitely butting heads.
Don't work with family.
I don't want to say that because family really helps, with referral business and everything. But they can be a little stubborn. And I mean, most sellers are a little stubborn as far as most always think their home is the shit. They think it's priced more than what it should be.
People believe that their homes are worth more than they are.
Yeah, so that's why it's my job to make sure they're educated on what homes were sold around here recently, within the last 90 days, and be like, well, this home had these they updated their kitchen and their bathrooms, they updated their roof, and then you have your home. You didn't do that. You don't really have any updates. You didn't even update the windows, and you want to price it the same as this one? You may want to think about that. But a lot of times, I don't want to say a lot of times. Sometimes I'll just give in and be like, okay, we'll price it the way you want to price it. And then it'll kind of have to be, he'll have to sit a month or a couple weeks. And then I'll have to go back to him hey, remember when we said that it should be priced this way? You thinking about lowering it? Then we'll have to drop the price and everything, which is, luckily, that's not what we did with my parents' house. So we just, we priced it actually probably a little bit lower than what it should be, but then it got multiple offers. And they were all excited for me because apparently they had trouble selling it a year ago. But it was all had to do with how the market was going. I think at the time it was a lot of inventory, and there's not enough buyers. But at this time, there was not enough. There was not a lot of homes being sold, and it was this perfect timing. So, timing is everything in real estate. I realized
location, and then timing is everything.
Oh, location is probably the number one thing about real estate. That's what people look for.
That's why they have that saying. Although locations are always changing, so I don't, meaning it's up and coming neighborhood. What does that mean?
When you're dealing with Baltimore, you have you can have one block that's super nice and luxurious and family friendly, but then 2 blocks over could be a war zone.
I want to go back to what you were saying before. So people, when you are always overestimating their home, so they think that their home is worth more. Who decides how much the home is worth? Can you walk into a house and does the real estate agent decide on the worth?
We only give our professional opinion of what it should be priced.
Can you walk into a house? Can you walk into a house, look around, and know how much a house is worth just by eyeballing it?
No.
So you need to have an appraisal.
No, I don't need to have an appraisal. I just need to do my research, comparative market analysis is the technical term.
Okay.
To see what all the houses that recently sold, what updates were done. Like I want to make sure I gauge what the neighborhood is like before I go into that home. I can't go into the home blind and not know what the neighborhood's like.
So how do you find out how much it's worth? What is the process of finding out the worth of a home? For example, your parents thought that their home was worth more than it was, right? So what was it that you saw that they didn't, or how, like, I know you were talking about like the updates and all that, but like when you come to that final price that you're going to list it as, how do you come to that number? How do you determine the worth of a house?
Well, if you have 3 houses, probably like within a block of where their house is, you see what it was priced at, and you just gauge on what you think that their price is. I might be explaining it in a very confusing way.
So you kind of like pick a number out of it. It goes based off of the neighbors' homes. Like, what if your neighbor has a pool? You know, like location is everything, but so is a swimming pool.
Well, then you scratch that one off, because I actually think having a pool brings the value down.
Really?
Honest, yeah.
I guess it depends where you live, right? If you're like in California, everyone has to have a pool.
Right.
Versus over here, you know, you get a couple of nice months. Yeah, barely to use it.
And then it's just a burden the rest of the year.
And then you're always worried about people drowning and the liability. And so having a pool actually decreases the value of a house?
Like you said, depends on the area, but I mean, yeah.
I have my priorities all wrong. I want a pool. Forget the house.
And what I think about too, then like when it's under contract, you gotta worry about a whole pool inspection too.
Oh, and it's a headache. That's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing.
So, all right. So you're selling your parents' house, right? You somehow find this magical number.
Say it's a magical number. I mean,
well, I don't.
I'm educating them.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying is that to me, like, I find it very interesting that like, does the agent come up with the worth and price of a house?
I give them enough information to go off of for them to know what I think it should be priced at, and unfortunately, I don't have the final say. I can only give them so much information before they say, they can either say, okay, we'll price it, what do you think? Or they'll be like, I think it should be a little bit more, and they'll raise it like $10K or something.
But people are all like sentimental about their homes and about their pricing, and they're trying to...
Most people, yes.
In a way, though, isn't it better to price it lower, and that way you get multiple bidding wars, and sometimes it can bid higher than it's worth?
With the way the market is now, yes. That's what I've been trying to tell all my clients. But like, if you want a bidding war with your home, and you'll most likely get much higher than what we're going to list it. I try to say something like that to entice them. Be like, don't you want to get a bidding war with your house? Like, if you price it like this, you'll probably get like 8 offers, and then we'll decide from there. But how great does that sound?
But that's also a gamble, because what if they're like, all right, we'll price it lower, and then one person comes along and is like, great, I'm ready to buy it, and then
I mean, of course it's a gamble.
No one else comes through, and then they're like, well, can you back out? Can you be like, you know what, never mind, I raised the price? Like, if let's say someone takes their home and puts it on the market for less than it's worth, hoping to get into a bidding war, and then there's only one offer that comes along. So now you got to sell it to this one person.
No, you don't have to accept any offer that's given to you.
Gotcha. So you
can decline any offer you want.
For no reason?
For no reason.
Okay, so you can change
just say
your mind.
declined, and then the agent can be like, wait, is there a reason behind? Like, no. You don't have to give them any reason.
Do people do that? Because like you were saying earlier, it's a huge decision that people are making. So does that happen a lot, that like a lot of buyers or sellers, they get cold feet and then like will take away their listing and be like, you know what, I don't know, maybe not, maybe it's the wrong time?
Thankfully, I'm going to hit the table, knock on wood. I've heard many horror stories of people losing deals like the day of or the day before settlement. And it's crushing. Like, I heard stories where, like, they couldn't find the buyer just disappeared. And because the deal doesn't go through until everything's signed. Nothing signs it. It just, everything goes out the window.
Until the bank comes through.
Exactly.
Even out that brand new window that they just put in to raise the price of their house.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I feel like it will eventually happen to me. I mean, I'm just not prepared for it. I don't want it to.
You gonna cry?
Yeah, I would probably cry. It depends on how expensive the house was.
I remember when my mother was doing real estate. I remember she used to talk about it a lot. She really loved it. She was good at it because my mother's like a people person. She's like an extrovert, which I found is that like you need to be like very extroverted in this field. A for marketing, B for just whatever. And I remember she was one time like went to this like closing, and at the closing something went wrong, and it was like major tension, and they had like everyone sitting in the room, and everyone was just like kind of freaking out, and it was this huge deal that was supposed to go through, and like it just kind of didn't happen, and something didn't. I don't fully understand. I gotta call her, and everyone call your mothers. But in general, I'm gonna ask her about it because I was just remembering it because I was going through all this. But just in general, really quickly, what is the process of it? Because there's so many different things. There's like, you get the listing, then you have like the open houses and the showings, then you have your appraisals. It goes into escrow. You go under contract, then you go into.
I'll take it from here.
Yes, please.
Yeah. You're
What-
mixing a lot of things up. That's why
This is what you're here for. Please enlighten me and the rest of the world. What is the process from A to Z? Go.
Okay, so once you have a house listed and you get the offers, as we're talking about, once that one offer is accepted and it's under contract.
So wait, and accepted means that the owners accepted the offer for
From the
home.
buyer.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you go under contract. What does that mean?
So once it's under contract, that means you have a certain amount of days before the settlement date. So average is like 30 days.
Okay.
So the first thing that's usually done is the buyer will do a home inspection, and the inspector will look throughout the whole house and make sure there's no latent defects or things that are majorly wrong with the home, or things that that need to be fixed before settlement. And once the inspection's done and you get the report, you forward it over to the seller, and the buyer can tell the seller like, hey, we want this fixed, or like we want like the windows fixed, like roof patched or stuff like that. And when that's agreed upon, then you move to the appraisal, and the appraiser comes by, looks at the house and looks at the rest of the neighborhood to make sure what the offer price is matched with what the value should be.
Isn't that kind of backwards though? Shouldn't you get your house appraised first and then decide how much to sell it for?
No, because it's what the appraisal amount is that day.
It changes day by day?
It changes, man. It can change every week, in a day, a month.
But that's so crazy
yeah.
because you put out how much a house,
And
you put out, and it sits on that price for months or days, or like you said, even 30 days from the time you go under contract. So the price of the house can go up and down like a seesaw.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, for every time I had an appraisal, I've only had a few that appraised less than what it should be, and then you had to kind of go back into negotiating, like, because you had to go to the seller and be like, well, it didn't appraise for this much and the loan won't go through, so if you drop the price, can we just do that so the loan will go through? And a lot of times it works out, because I mean, when it appraises less, it's usually like, I mean, I don't want to say usually because it varies from, especially with the way the market is now, but once the appraisal's done and that's all finished, then you do like a walk through the home to make sure all the repairs or everything that went into the inspection, everything that was agreed upon is finished. And then you get to the settlement, and then even though I keep hitting the table, I'm sorry.
You're good.
And then when you get to the settlement, usually you have the buyer and the seller there, but now during COVID times, like they only have, like, it's only the title attorney and the buyer, and then everyone's separated. But once everything is signed on the dotted line and the deed signed and everything,
Ka-ching.
yeah,
The
deal is complete.
That's when it hits your bank account.
Yeah.
So
once the money's wired.
So from the time that it goes under contract, and then the buyers, they bring in the inspectors?
Yes.
And
the buyer has to pay for the inspection.
They have to pay for the inspection.
Mm-hmm.
And that would make sense.
And the appraisal and everything.
Really? So
yeah,
it's like...
it's everything on the buyer's end that they have to pay for.
Wow. That's like Sucks to be a buyer. You gotta I didn't know that you gotta basically have all this extra money aside from what you're buying the house on. It's these expenses of buying a house.
Right, and that's why it sucks if a deal falls through at the last minute, because that's all that money wasted. The appraisal's wasted, the inspection's wasted,
and there's no guarantee because the seller doesn't have anything to lose and he can just pull out at any minute.
Well, you can sue. Actually, that if you agree with certain things, if you agree with the inspection, agree with the appraisal, certain things that are signed, that are agreed upon, and then all you're waiting for is the settlement, and the seller backs out, the buyer could sue. But that's a lot of headache if you're suing.
From the times that you go under contract, how often does it actually go through? How often do they fall through? What are the percentages there?
Ooh, I mean, it definitely more go through than not, for sure. Percentage wise, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go in, especially the way the market is.
A lot can go wrong in this. In this, it's a very unstable industry as a whole,
and that's what
uncertainty.
And that's kind of my job, or an agent's job, is like, you want to make sure your clients are comfortable as possible, and you want to make sure that certain things are being handled correctly. So I'm always following up with the lender, following up with the other agent, following up with the client, following up with the inspector, making sure all the proper paperwork is being signed and forwarded to the right people. And you're kind of just making sure things are an even keel the whole time, but sometimes there are things that are out of your control, and that's the most frustrating.
So you're like that middle, it's the agent, but you're like that middleman who's kind of keeping the deal together.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that there's probably a lot of conflict that arises with the sellers versus the buyers, and they're like, you said you would put in a new roof, and you said you would this, and it can probably kind of get out of control a little bit. Whose side are you typically on? Are you on?
You're always on your client's side. Always on your client's.
So if you're working for the seller, you're on the seller side, and if
Yes.
you're working for the buyers, you're on the buyer side.
Always.
Who is generally easier to work for? Which one is?
I mean,
what do you prefer? Do you have a preference in general? I know you said it depends on the market.
I mean, if it didn't depend on the market, I would prefer it with the seller, because especially dealing with so many buyers, you'll have buyers that will know what they want, and you'll look at probably 3 homes total, and then we'll put an offer in, and boom, accepted, done.
People do that. People look at 3 homes and then just make a purchase.
It's happened. Yes.
I'm so indecisive about everything.
You'd be the worst client then.
I really, 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 really would be. I can't make a decision about. I mean, I know what I like. I like what I like. When it comes to food or whatever, I just eat sushi every day. It's fine. Kidding. But when it comes to especially to big things, even clothes, I was talking about earlier, pants, I don't know how people make these decisions, especially after looking at 3 houses, and then they're just all right, we're good to go.
I mean, I couldn't do it, but then again, on the opposite end, you have buyers that are so indecisive, maybe like you, Red. And
Thank you.
We would look at probably over 50 homes. And I remember I had this one client where we looked in the city. We definitely looked at least 50 homes in the city. And it might have been around, it was the 50th when we looked, and she was just like, you know what? I don't think I want a house in the city anymore. I want to look in the county. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? We wasted all this time in the city looking for a house, and then we looked at 50 more in the county, and then we found one.
All right, well, at least she bought one, right?
Yes.
Do you ever drop a client for just wasting your time?
Yes.
That happens, or for being too difficult?
Yeah, usually it's because they're too difficult.
Really? What kind of?
And I'm just like, the money isn't worth the headache.
What kind of things can a client do that would make you want to drop them?
The biggest thing is if they don't listen to me, or at least for me, I don't know, I feel like there's a lack of respect. Usually, if it's, from my experience, it's usually dealt with someone who was a little bit older. But it's a very rare occurrence. It was literally, I think it's only 1 or 2 times where I dropped a client, but this one really sticks in my mind because it was a husband and wife, and I feel like I do a lot of the conversating to the wife, and then she relayed to the husband, and just shoot down everything I say.
It's one of those things, like, you got to get your priorities in order in your whatever's happening in your personal life before you can, because like if like the husband and wife are disagreeing on everything, then there's no way that they could come to a decision on a house, like let alone, and then it kind of leaves you like stuck in the middle. You probably deal a lot with that, with like, let's say like a couple who's getting divorced, let's say, and you're trying to sell their house for them, right? So it's like they're always like that, like back and forth and that fighting, and you're like,
that happens a lot.
I work for both of them. It can get awkward because you're dealing with people very, very personally, right? Like this is their homes.
Like we know their budget. Like we know the type of money you make. Like,
but not just that though. You're also like walking through their homes, so you see their bedrooms, you see their closets, you see if they're a hoarder, if they're a mess, you see their sex swings hanging from their, like you get to really know them on a very personal level.
I would hope they would put that away.
I mean, it's you still got 30 days until closing. Like you never know.
I have never seen a sex swing or anything like that. Like, that was just out in the open.
Is there? Have you seen weird shit in people's homes? I'm like such a curious person that I like couldn't, like, I wouldn't like snoop, like go through their drawers. But
I hope not, right?
But I'm very observant. Like I used to work for a carpet cleaning company.
Yeah.
And because I've done like everything under the sun, hence the podcast. I'm like, all right, let's figure out every type of job in the world before I figure out what it is that I want to do actually. But I used to work for this carpet cleaning company back in my hometown, and we would go into people's homes, into their master bedrooms and into their whatever, their kids' rooms, whatever it was, and always, be like cleaning out their carpets, whatever it is. And I would love to like observe and see, like, are they messy? Are they clean? What pictures do they have on the wall? How they, like, their aesthetic, what their environment is like. Like, and you can really, really get to know somebody very well by walking through their space.
That's true.
And sometimes too well. Like things you don't want to know about.
Or do want to know.
Like the sex swing hanging in their bedroom. I mean, it's like, all right, keep it spicy. they got like whipped cream on their bedside table.
And you're like, I wouldn't have pegged you for that. Huh?
Speaking of pegging, no I'm joking.
The weirdest thing I ever walked in on, it was a vacant home. And I was showing a house to the client, and I'm pretty sure the door was locked when we got there. But we walked into one of the bedrooms, and there was somebody sleeping, like with a sleeping bag. There's no other furniture in the house. Like this guy literally, broke in and just was sleeping because he knew the house was vacant. So.
Because of the for sale sign.
Exactly, yeah. But you would think, during like, business hours, he would know that.
You would think that this squatter had a 9 to 5. What are you doing at 2 p.m. sleeping? I mean, don't you have somewhere to be?
So like, yeah. So I literally just slightly like I don't think I even opened it all the way, just halfway, and I saw him like, we need to leave. Because we don't know this guy. We don't know like what
does he come with the house? What do you do in a situation like that?
We leave and we say, you know what, this neighborhood is not for us.
Yeah, they were like, you know what, I'm Gucci, I'm good. Yeah. They end up they didn't buy the house. Yeah, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You call the cops?
I just told the agent. It's the agent's job to do all that. I called the agent, was like, hey, there's someone squatting in your home. You might want to call someone about it.
It gets very complicated. The squatting laws are very, like, there's...
Oh, my God, man. It's when I learned about it, I was just like, are you for real? Like, legally, someone could just stay there for a certain amount of time before you can kick them out?
It's like, ridiculous.
It is, man. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
But that's so crazy that you're in a showing and you just walk. It can get dicey.
It scared me because he could have had a gun, could have had a knife, whatever. Like,
he doesn't have a mattress, but he probably has a gun. I mean, you know what? This is America. Like, honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. And it's like, especially in Baltimore City. I mean, there are so many empty houses. What's up with that?
So many
What's
vacants.
up with every single vacant home here that's just boarded up? Like, isn't some developer just gonna one day like just pick all these houses up and kind of just turn them into like a gold mine?
No,
Why not?
because you have areas that like no one would ever touch with 50-foot pole. Wouldn't even just drive in the neighborhood. But that's a whole nother,
That's a whole
aspect.
that's a whole other story.
That's more getting political stuff.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Baltimore, it's a wonderful city with a lot of potential, you know. But it's like you see it, like it's intense driving through the streets here, and like I wish somebody would, buy it up and kind of make it, give it, because these houses are nice, they are kind of beautiful, and like, now they're just like heroin dens.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors, but you won't see anyone developing there anytime soon.
It's such a shame.
I know.
It really is. It's like everyone's trying to move to like Canton and Fells Point. It's like, there's more to the city. So you have you aside from the homeless person being there, what other
Trying to
weird
tap that one.
I it's hard to tap that, but I'm saying, let's say like even like hoarder homes, right? Does that happen that you walk into a house and there's like
A lot of times with investment properties, usually being sold as is, because a lot of times like the home could be foreclosed, and and the people that were living there got kicked out, and you're going into the home, just where everything's still there, or most things are still there, or just left behind, and you walk in, you're just like, how does someone live like this?
and when people buy those homes, it comes with everything that's in there?
Yeah, so it's
Take it or leave it?
It's their job to get it all cleaned out and demoed.
Do you ever
much.
rummage through it and I'm like, hey, I'll take that?
No.
Is that against the rules? No, because look, that reminds me a little bit of like that show, like Storage Wars or whatever, right? I'm sure that there's like valuable items somewhere hidden there or something, or especially if, let's say,
I didn't see him.
but especially, or if somebody like imagine like, there's like this old cat lady, right? Who, like dies in her hoarder home or whatever it is, and whoever they just want to unload the house, and they're just like, take it with everything in it. You get the junk removal company. Does that happen, that you'll sell a home full of junk and like whoever buys it, it's their job to empty it out?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of
they see the potential in, or like with that home in the area. Like they're like, all right, if we clean it out, freshen it up, remodel it, and then because I work with a lot of flippers, and they're good at just gauging like what the value could be once, and figuring out like how much it's going to cost to get all this removed and everything fixed up.
I love that. I love flipping homes, like that show, like Fixer Upper and stuff.
Flip or flop.
Yeah, like I don't really watch TV, but I've seen it. I've like caught a couple of these episodes, and I really love these like before and after, like almost like the DIYs, like reimagining a space, creating from what it is versus what it can be, and I'm like, holy shit, that's like really cool. Like if there's one,
a lot of people make a living from that.
If there's one skill that I wish that I had, I wish that I was good with my hands. I wish I knew how to like use power tools and lay down flooring and do, sheetrock and all that. But like, in all honesty, like I don't even know how to use a screwdriver. Like I am so bad at
I'm trying
this.
to picture you doing it, and no, it's
No,
not working.
I know. It's my it doesn't really fit my aesthetic to just. I have very soft hands. My next thing that I'm learning is I want to learn how to change a flat tire, because I get so many of them.
Yeah, I just had one recently, and
Did you change it yourself?
no, I have no idea how to do it.
Oh, okay, good. So you're like me. Yeah.
I just called my insurance, and someone came by and did it. Yeah.
I got that also. I got that roadside. It's like I'll
that's
just
what
camp
I
at
do
it.
it for.
They take 3 hours to get there, but yeah, I wish I knew how, because you can buy that space, and this is like my best friend. He's good at this stuff, right? And that's his dream, is like to buy a fixer-upper house, like a yard and a a garage or whatever it is, and like you just build and put in the floor, and you go to like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever it is, and you buy all the raw materials, and you can create these insane like homes for yourself with these flip them, and but you don't even need a real estate license for that if you're just buying and selling.
No. No, you just need to have you mean you have an agent to buy and sell the house, but I mean, but a lot of times like they're already agents. If like, oh, if I'm flipping a house, I'll just be an agent just so I can save money on commission, so I don't have to pay anyone else a commission.
Does that ever happen though? Like where like an agent will like poach buyers from you or something like that, where it's like, or you'll show someone a house and then they can like cut you out of the deal in some way. Does it ever get like dirty, the real estate business?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some agents who are pretty cold-hearted. That's for sure, and they'll do anything to kind of manipulate someone to bring them on their side. You know, because a lot of people aren't. You know, a normal person, you know, wouldn't know like the ins and outs of real estate. They wouldn't know like what goes into it, and like for example, like if someone already has an agent, and someone else, and then like a lender comes in and says, hey, I have someone that's an agent, and if you use them, I'll make sure you get like this kind of rate. So it's like, oh, so if I use this, so I won't get this rate if I don't use this agent. And they're like, yeah. So that's why you want to use them. And it's like, well, that's not true. That's illegal.
Because
you can't coerce someone because that.
Ultimately, like even if you have a listing or whatever it is, like there's no contract there. Meaning there is.
So when you have a buyer, you want to make sure that they sign an exclusive buyer agreement. So like it states that I am the agent for this person.
Really?
Yes.
They sign that? But then what if they decide?
Well, a lot of times, you know, like sometimes you think someone's your client without signing, but nowadays you always want to make sure you have something signed. Because then if someone does poach them, you can go back and be like, hey, this person's actually my client. I need to get some of the money from this.
Do you guarantee them a certain amount of time, though, of how long it'll take for them to buy a house? Because what if they say, you know what, maybe it's not the right time now. When do you release them from that contract if they back out or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, you put on there like the time frame. Like it's usually like 3 months, like as an agent or something. Or especially with listing a home too. Like usually average around 3 months.
I saw a billboard recently for.
Oh, don't tell me it's Redfin. Is it Redfin?
No, but okay. I do want to discuss Redfin with you because I know that there's a lot of shit about Redfin. There was something similar that used to be, but also went out of business, which was kind of this like scammy type of real estate.
Which one?
Fuck, I wish I remembered the exact name of it, but I remember it was like, if you signed up to be an agent with them, they give you like a Mac computer, they give you a car, they give you like a whatever it is, they give you all
as a real estate agent?
As a real estate agent,
What?
except that you must reach a quota and sell a certain amount of houses or sell a certain amount of whatever. And it was one of those, like, it was almost like a scam version of real estating because they gave you so much and they made their demands impossible that they ended up going under because nobody was able to reach those demands.
I was going to say, it sounded like a failed attempt, like from the get-go. Like,
a little bit. I wish I could remember the name, but they ended up going under. But this billboard that I saw, it was like some whatever, they were like, your home sold in 30 days guaranteed. But at the same time, you never set a price. So if, I could sell it for $1, you know?
See, yeah, it's advertising like that. And it reminds me of this one Redfin advertisement on his billboards for it is saying like, sell your house for only a 1% listing commission. And so when they say that, it's 1% on the seller side, but you're still going to have to pay the buyer's commission. So when you sell a home, the commission comes out of that, comes out of the price. And so that commission is like the average is 5%. So it'd be like 5% of like 300,000. But with Redfin, they'll only do 1% listing fee, but it will have to be 2.5 on the buyer's commission. So it'd be 3.5. So it's a little bit of, I mean, I even see on the billboard they have like that little tiny writing, you know, that you can't read when you're driving by. It's like, oh yeah, it's 1% of the listing commission, but but the buyer's commission, you know, varies. But they say something like that, so it's not like false.
So it was like that sign where it was like free beer, and then you realize in small writing it's free Wi-Fi, cold beer.
Yeah,
and then
I've
the
seen that,
really
yeah.
like tiny lettering, and it's like free beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's legal. You can get away with it as long as you have that little lettering in there that specifies what it actually means.
So what is the deal with Redfin?
So the Redfin agents, they're paid a salary, and I think they get a little bit of commission if they sell a home. I'm not sure as far as like what they make, but I know I know they're not 100% commission because they have a standard base salary.
And what are the pros and cons of working for an agency like that?
Well, I always think it's you get what you pay for. Like they won't give you they won't go like above and beyond to make sure your home is sold. Like because
they don't have to work as hard for it because they're getting paid anyway.
Exactly. Like I always think people work in commission, like, because they're like hungry. Like they want to make sure they have your business. They want to make sure you're satisfied with everything you're doing, and
They want to earn that dollar.
right. And you have the Redfin agents that are just just sit back and be like, oh yeah, we'll list your home 1% here, then whatever. If it sells, it sells.
But generally, with the way commission works, it's 5% of the.
Yeah, so it'll be a split 2.5% buyer and seller side.
And if it's in a state where it's legal for you to be both, then you can have
get the full
5%.
Yeah.
And then what percent goes to your broker?
So it depends on the split. Some brokers it could be like 100%. The agent gets commission, but they have to pay like some monthly fee to be an agent there. Or it could be like a 70-30 split or 80-20.
It's so complicated.
Yeah, well, I mean, different agencies provide different things. So at the first agency I was with, like, there was no camaraderie like between agents or like no one like knew anyone, and like there was no like get-togethers to help better so you can kind of hear their side of things and like you can improve this way. That's why I'm loving the agency I'm with now. Like everyone's interacting with one another, and whenever someone's in a bind, I feel like everyone's helping each other out. Like I'm on the Facebook group of our agency page every day. Like if anyone needs assistance with anything, or if anyone has trouble, because every day I'm like seeing like news stories like popping up, like, oh my God, like someone stole like the furniture in the house. Like, what do I do? What do I tell the agent? And everyone just like pop in and give their 2 cents on it, like what to do.
People stole the furniture from the house?
It was something weird like that.
Is this like staging stuff?
Yeah, like someone stole like the staging furniture. Yeah.
Like an agent stole it?
We don't know.
Was probably
Someone
the
stole
squatter that you found. He now has a
it's the same
mattress.
No one knows what happened to him.
He's like, I just furnished my place. These for sale signs are great. You get everything you need.
Apparently, staging is a great business to get into. If you can meet a stager.
I know. I actually saw a truck the other day that was a staging truck, and it really got me thinking into the whole staging industry. Do you find that homes sell better when they're staged?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely depends on the home, but for the most part, it's you can definitely get more money. You'll definitely get more money out of it because when people walk in, they're like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And like they have a better idea of how they can see where they want to put things, or if it's
it changes a house to a home.
Yes.
And a lot of people are not that imaginative, and that's why they hire stylists, and that's why they hire interior designers, and they hire all these people because people like they don't know what to do with a blank canvas. I think like they need. Some people like to color in the lines, and some people can take an empty room and turn it into like an interesting space. And again, like I'm telling you, like these YouTube shows, I love watching this stuff. They talk about it and where they put stuff. I always find it so interesting. I can watch this shit all day long. To me, it's really really cool. What's up with open houses? Talk to me about open houses.
Well, so open houses have been picking back up again, which is great. During the whole COVID times, like open houses were kind of on hiatus. It was only just individual private showings, one at a time. Make sure you have your mask on. There's hand sanitizer and little footies to wear. So.
Oh my God. But in general, it seems like such an old-fashioned thing to have open houses?
So-
Do they actually work? Do you ever sell a house to an open house?
I've never had someone come into an open house and was like, "Oh my God, this is the house I want. I don't have an agent. What do I do next? I want to put an offer in." Usually, I like open houses because I can find more clients or people that don't have an agent. Like I'll come in who just like be walking by and be like, "Oh yeah, we saw your sign and balloons outside and." We just want to check out the house, and I'll just go up to them and be like, "Oh, you working with an agent?" They're like, "No, we're actually just starting, and we're just intrigued with this home." And right from there, I got them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Reel them in. So it's not necessarily just about selling that home on the spot
But
to the person,
it's a
but
great
it's
way to
it's a
market the
great
home.
way to market it
Mhm.
and kind of meet people and use it as a like a tool,
Yeah.
essentially.
Because when I'm doing an open house, I'm making sure that it's like posted on all the websites so everyone knows that there's an open house today, and so it makes people more aware that this home is for sale.
How do you know who's there though? Just for like because they're bored on a Saturday and they just kind of want the free food.
That's if there's free food.
That's if there's free food. They don't. I mean,
I don't put those those roasted apple paninis.
roasted apple paninis. I love it. The next time you're having an open house, I'm coming.
If you're coming, I'll make sure to have those.
There
paninis
you go.
out. Yeah.
You better have and get me my fancy Fiji water as well. You know what I'm saying? I only want the best of the
Cheers
best.
to that.
But you have. So how do you decide when to put out? Do you put out food at an open house?
Like for the open house I'm doing on Saturday, I'll be putting out like Halloween candy. So I'll do stuff like that or some kind of. Well, it depends on the house. If it's a big, fancy house, I'll make sure to put some kind of spread.
Gotcha.
But if it's for some townhome in the city, just.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
You're invited to my open house.
Thank you. I will
cordially invited.
Thank you. I will try to stop by. I actually really have a fascination with it. I love, not in a creepy way. I don't stand in people's like bushes like with binoculars looking into their homes. I don't do that anymore.
I was saying, I can totally picture you.
I stopped doing that last week, but in reality though, like one of my favorite things to do, like really, is to take drives, through the county, through the city, different, especially like DC, just like really seeing how different people like live. And especially if they have like you could see into their living rooms or their kitchens, just seeing like the what are important, the lawn ornaments that they put out. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of your
right.
home, and I'm like a curious person. Like I never got a formal education, right? Never went to high school, never went to college, never did any of that. So this podcast is also me getting a glimpse into different people's lives in different industries. So like I really have this fascination with homes, and that's why I watch so much of this on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever heard of this show called My Sweet Digs. It's by like Refinery 29.
I have not.
It's on YouTube. It's a very millennial where people show off their apartments. It's mostly these like expensive, houses in like LA, New York, or whatever it is. And it's so ridiculous. A lot of it. They're like, we pay like $4,000 a month for this Brooklyn apartment. We have no space. Where this one girl, she literally stored her jeans in the underneath her oven, and that pull out to like warm bread. Yes. And she was like, I don't cook, so like I keep my like oven and kitchen cabinets for like my winter stuff. But like location. If that's important to you to live in New York and you're gonna use your oven, I mean it's a very creative space, a creative use of space to put your jeans in the oven. It's a little. It's clean.
It's clean.
Someone like preheats the oven, sets the house on fire. Cashmere sweater up in flames. Oh my God. Would you ever? What we were talking a little bit before about like marketing, advertising yourself. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the number one? You remind me a little bit of when we had talked about this at the bar the other night. I think we had hung out like last week, and we were talking about like TV characters we remind of each other, and you are like definitely a cross between Phil Dunphy because of the real estate, but also like the corny dad jokes. Like you're just Phil Dunphy. What was I say? Mixed with like Barney Stinson.
Wait, it was Phil and Barney? That's what it was?
I think that's what we ended up with.
Okay.
And then you decided that I was David from Schitt's Creek mixed with Jeff Winger from
Yes, that's exactly from
Although,
Community. Jeff Winger from
although I think
Community.
I'm more of like a Ted Mosby mixed with.
I don't see Ted Mosby.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take the Jeff Winger mix. I get called David from Schitt's Creek all the time.
Yeah.
I get compared to him. People like will randomly text me. They'll be like, "You, David." I'll be like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I even see it so much right now. It's great.
I feel like I'm interviewing Phil Dunphy, so it's great. You know,
It's Phil and David right here.
Phil and David just hanging out. What kind of?
They would be such good friends. Wouldn't they?
They really would be. They would balance off each other. I think that's why we're such good friends.
Yeah.
Would you ever like take out like a billboard for yourself?
Absolutely.
You would?
Yes. I mean, especially but other industries I work in.
Right. Right.
Just to get my face out there.
To get your
would be
face
the
out.
greatest
'Cause-
thing. It's got to have my tagline.
What is your tagline?
Is James Malone, your model realtor?
Your model realtor. I love it. I like it. I dig it. I dig it. Your model realtor, because it's cute. It's very cute.
Oh, thank you.
Although, because on one hand, like, I see these billboards all the time, like, like 1-800, you got a lawyer, and it's like this like generic photo of like this like guy like with his like arms crossed, like in a suit, like he just looks
That's
like
a classic look. It's just
like on the side of a bus, and it's like, do you really want to get a lawyer from the side of a bus? Like, do you really want to get a real estate agent from the side of it? But I think real estate is different than lawyer.
well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Billboards aren't the big thing with real estate. A lot of times, if you want to attract clients, especially in a neighborhood that you want to be working in, like specifically a certain neighborhood, you want like when I sold a home, I made sure to make a whole bunch of little mail out flyers to pretty much all the homes in the neighborhood, letting them know, like, hey, I had my face on it, had all my information, and it's just a big printout of the home that was sold and what it sold for. So this lets them know, hey, like, your home could sell for this price too, and then you should use me if you're interested.
Do you ever do that? Like
Yeah.
cold, like knocking on strangers' doors?
I don't knock on doors. No.
So
I'll send mailers or something like that to kind of just get myself out there. No, I couldn't do the door-to-door thing because I hate soliciting myself to say anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's worse than cold calling.
A little bit, but especially I think that like in today's day and age, with the way things are changing, like billboards are going out of style a little bit. Like it is, you can even advertise on Facebook and Instagram now and
Right.
probably get more hits than
And I'm all over that.
a billboard.
Right,
But
that's what everybody's using.
do you ever do that, like sponsored posts?
I don't do sponsored posts, no.
Would you ever like be?
Oh, yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
like because that like hits people. What do you have like other creative avenues that you would use for attracting potential clients, buyers, and sellers?
I have one that I may or may not be continuing to do. On I think it was on Tinder. I did put that I am a realtor, and if you are looking to buy a home, to let me know. I made sure to put that like in the bio and everything, and I was surprised that girls were interested.
Did you get interest?
Just I mean, I only went on one actual date. We met at a house or like that she wanted to see, and I kind of knew I didn't want to like see her more romantically. I just want to use her as a client, and I like to think I gauged that, but we actually looked at I think one or two homes, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out with her as a client. It didn't work out romantically. It was crash and burn.
But number one, first of all, if I can tell you a secret, I have in my dating profiles is this podcast, and I'm like, I'm the host of It's My Job to Know Yours. If you got an interesting job, like, hit me up. And I've gotten a few hits. I've talked to some interesting people who like, this one girl. She's a she does sign language. And she was like, all right, I'll come on your show. And I'm like, great. Like, in the end of the day, like in today's day and age, like you gotta be creative. You gotta be creative with like, putting it out there. And it's like, number one, it can't hurt letting people know that you're, although like how many single women are buying houses?
A lot more than you think.
Is that,
it's very empowering.
I can imagine, but it's like good for them. Like
I had clients recently who were single and bought homes for themselves.
That's where it's at. Buying a home nowadays it's investing in yourself. Like rent, that money goes out the window every month, and you don't ever see a return on that. Is it unethical though to date someone that you're working with, like I say in the medical field, right? Doctors are never allowed to date their patients.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to date someone whose house you're selling, or someone you're selling a house to, or use the house for a date? It's vacant. It's got a hot tub
for a date.
It's vacant. Throw a little party in the hills. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that the owners aren't aware.
That was one of the best episodes of Modern Family, where Phil got this amazing listing with like this hot tub and fireplace and the music. He took Claire, who his wife, she's from Baltimore originally, the actress. But she, they were there, and then the whole family had that same idea, and they were all in the house at the same time, like trying to avoid each other. That does happen though. Not with you, obviously. You're a professional.
Not with me. I mean, if it does, it's very discreet. You don't hear about it.
You don't hear about it. But I'm sure. I mean, it's like you got a vacant house, like 3 p.m., like, hey, come over. Keys under the mat. Come on in. The squatters.
Yeah, maybe later in my career, once I get the homes that are a little more upscale.
When you're selling the mansions.
In the $1 million
mansions. Yeah. It's like, I'm showing these clients what a good time they can have if they purchase this home. So it's not against the law to date.
It's not against the law. It's not against the law.
But there's also, it's also a very big... this is also like kind of personal. Has it ever happened though that like you're in the home and someone tries to like seduce you? Because that's also like the real estate agent thing. It's like, I'll bet the bedrooms are huge.
I mean, if it might have happened, it probably just went over my head.
You're like, actually, they are. Let me show you. Let me show you all these. And she's like, fuck, what do I got to do?
How's he not getting the hints?
Did you see that video that I sent you the other day of the plumber?
Yes. Yeah,
it's exactly like that.
Exactly. Porno,
it was like where it's like she's trying to seduce him. So it's like when you're in real estate mode, it's like
your pipes don't need cleaning.
Yeah. It's like, oh, is this real marble? Actually, yes, it is. Wow. It's too much. It's too much. We gotta edit some of this out, Alan. But aside from the, open homes of like people just coming in, like wasting time or whatever else, you're also kind of, if you're holding an open home in like a dangerous neighborhood or anything like that, like does it ever get scary? People just walking in?
Well, the scary thing is it could not be a dangerous neighborhood and something bad could happen because there was. It wasn't with my agency. I think it was with Long and Foster or one of those where someone was holding an open house and it was just them in the house and someone came by with a gun and shot him dead. And that freaked the hell out of me because I'm like, wow, that could happen to anyone. And it doesn't even matter like what area you're in. Like someone could just be crazy and just walk in, bam. Like it's nothing. And when I saw that news, it just, it just scared the hell out of me. And I'm still thinking about it. It's weird.
Did you know this agent?
I did not know I mean, I knew the name, but I didn't know personally.
Did more details come out? Like, was it an altercation or was it just random? Did they ever catch the person?
The person was caught,
okay.
But I didn't hear anything about them having a relationship with, or them knowing each other or anything. It just seemed like wrong place, wrong time.
That is insane. I mean, I think with any job, there's always an element of people are people. People are crazy. Mm-hmm. Like it's like that's been my conclusion in life now is that people are just insane. And if we accept that, then life is just easier because it like lowers your expectations of humanity. Like everyone is crazy. That's why I started really looking at the world. And once
we're all trying to figure it out.
We're all just animals. That's it. We all have an animal instinct, and we're all. But like, ultimately, that's every job has risk, I guess, on some level. But that is kind of nuts, though. That this is something you have to think about.
But if you think of the open house too, like that door is open. Like and the one agent's there by himself. It's like for all we know, it could have been. Maybe he was trying to rob him first, or he wasn't giving up money or something. That's why.
So what do you do to protect yourself when you're at an open house or you're doing a showing late at night or something? Does this cross your mind?
Well, I I make sure to, well, I mean, for an open house, if it's an area that I don't feel comfortable in, I won't do an open house at all. And I'll make sure to tell the sellers, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with it. I mean, I'll be glad to be able to, make sure it's shown to people, put a lockbox up and everything, but I won't do an open house.
In an incident like this, where there's a murder in the home, or in general, does it lower the value of a house?
Yes.
Do you have to disclose it to the client that someone got murdered in the home?
So you don't have to disclose. I mean, in Maryland, you don't have to disclose it. I think it's
because everyone gets shot in their homes in Baltimore. That's why you don't have to disclose it.
No homes would be sold.
No homes would be sold, literally.
I think it's like 3 states where like you have to disclose. I think Alaska is one of them. That's the only one I remember. Alaska, you have to disclose if there's a murder.
I was reading it literally yesterday on I think like TMZ or something, where the Charles Manson murder home of that actress, what was her name?
Sharon Tate.
Her murder home, one of these went on.
I think California might be one too. Actually, is one of the 3.
But people are so weird though, because people love. There are some people who are into it.
Sure, they want it because of that.
Right? That they love this like spooky shit, and they're like down with like the murder homes, and like, oh my god, the last owners died here. Like part of the LA tours are like, and whatever got murdered here, and they're like, sign me up.
Yeah, it's like this is haunted. It's a cursed home or something, and people love that.
You ever walk into a house and you just feel like it's haunted?
Yes.
You have. Do you believe in ghosts?
No. I mean,
you can just feel spirits in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some paranormal stuff that.
Have you experienced that in a house?
I mean, there's some houses that just feel creepy.
Yes.
It's just you just feel uncomfortable and you just can't wait to leave. And you feel like you hear things. And
then you're supposed to try to sell it. You know what I mean? And you're like, it's a real fixer-upper.
Yeah, the client be like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "No, hear what? What are you talking about?"
They're like, "What is that blood on the walls?" Blood? No, this is red paint.
Yeah, they tested out this color. It didn't work.
Have you seen that, like blood on the walls, or just?
Well, I mean, there were times where I thought it was blood.
Jesus.
And then I didn't investigate enough to figure out if it was or not. I was like, "Oh, it's probably not the right house for you. Let's go."
Yeah, it's. I have another real estate agent friend who's always posting like weird houses that she goes to see, and sometimes like you just, even in pictures, I just get the vibe like, this is a creepy house. Like I do not want it. Like it has this bad omens. Like I'm into that. Like the energy of things. Like everyone has energy, and like houses too. They really could come with that like negative energy and stuff.
Yeah.
Do clients like feel that and they're like, "Get me out of here"?
Yeah. I mean, I've driven up to houses with them where we just drove right up in front and they just tell me like, "I don't want to go in. Let's go to the next one. Let's scratch it." I'm like, "Okay."
kind of the same with the squatters.
Yeah.
And all that. Or it's like
sometimes you guys tell it's just like,
or it's like infested with roaches or something.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised the bugs you find in some of these homes. They're not kept up well. It's like, why would you wouldn't even get like some bug treatment before you put this on the market? Come on.
But then aside from that, there's also things that people can do to kind of like be sketchy about their homes. Like if they have mold in their house, right? They can like put paint on it and never really actually deal with the problem, and then they pretend that it isn't there. Or I know of someone recently who hired somebody to drywall a like furnace oil heater or something behind drywall. So basically when they do the inspection, they don't have to test it to make sure that it's not going to blow up one day.
Wait, so it was hidden? So like you couldn't even,
it
wasn't
know it was
there?
Hidden.
Okay.
And then they hired this person to hide it.
So like you couldn't,
basically
like, so if you walk through, you couldn't
tell. There's just like a random box sticking out, like that's part of the wall almost. And you can cover stuff up instead.
And it wasn't even opening. It's just like everything's sealed.
Right. It was like an old, I think, oil heater or something that they used back in the day that they don't use anymore. And instead of removing this like 10,000 pound
it's costly
steel whatever off this rickety basement, you just drywall it in, put it in there, pretend it doesn't exist. They come and do an inspection of the house. Okay, it's a solid wall. We don't know what's behind there. And that's like some sketchy business a little bit.
Yeah, when you sell a house, you always ask the client like, all right, are there any latent defects that I should be aware of? One being mold or something like that, or something that's a big gash in the roof or something. But if they can put, oh no, I don't know of anything, and then but if a buyer comes in, inspection's done, and they see something, it's like, hey, why wasn't this disclosed?
So that's why you have the inspectors.
Right, but it's kind of put on me, like, if it's a lane defect, I feel like I should be aware of that. It's like, and I tell them, like, tell me now because the inspector's going to find it. But I'm curious if they knew that oil tank was still there.
I mean, if you hide it well enough, right?
That's
I mean,
true.
but there's a lot of times, like, people will find stuff hidden in walls, whether it be valuable or a dead cat, I don't know. There's just stuff that you can hide. So you're buying your first home now, right? What are things that you're looking for as a real estate agent, knowing the insides? What are some tips for like first home buyers who are, ready to make that purchase?
Well, for first-time home buyers, you want to make sure that, well, first you want to know the location you're in. Location is most important. Make sure your credit score is at. You want to make sure it's above 660, I believe, to make sure you can get the loan approved, and you want to make sure you have enough money for a down payment and for the closing cost. People aren't usually aware of how much the closing costs are.
Yeah, because you were telling me earlier, but that the buyer has to pay for the inspection and for the, what was it? The
appraisal.
Yeah. So what's the closing cost?
So the closing costs, is like all the fees, taxes, everything that goes into that to the settlement. So like once everything is signed, it's like then you have to pay this certain amount for the closing costs, and depending on the home, like if it's around a $300,000 home, you're looking about $20,000 in closing costs.
How
that has to be paid like that day of settlement.
How did you decide what agent to go with when you were buying your home? Did you go through an agent?
I went through me.
So you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, an agent can purchase their own home.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you don't have to. But you
don't worry about commission or anything.
But are you able to purchase a home that you have the listing to?
Wait, what? Why would I do that?
You're not. Why not? Because if you if you're selling someone's home, right?
I'm selling.
So you're your own buyer, but you're saying in the state of Maryland you can't be the buyer.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
So you're not allowed to sell a house you're not allowed to buy a house for yourself.
I would just have someone else sell the house and be like, I'm buying it from you.
Gotcha. So you're not allowed to do that.
Well, actually, this one house I'm going to try and purchase. I'm going to try and buy it from them straight up, so they don't have to worry about any commissions to pay to agents. Because I'm an agent, I'd be like, I want to buy this from you. You don't need to get a seller agent or anything. So actually, yeah. So in that case, yeah, I can just go up to someone and be like, hey, I want to put an offer on your home. Let's get this deal done. I'm an agent. You don't need to worry about commission or anything to anyone else.
Has that ever happened? Someone just came and like bought a house in cash? Just like,
well, you see those signs that say like we will buy houses, with cash.
Yeah, any guarantee, like any condition, we will buy it. Mm-hmm. Has that happened?
That's happened, yeah. Usually it's some really crummy homes in like $50,000 to $100,000 range. But they'll be like, yeah, we'll get a certified check, and here you go.
They come in with that suitcase, and
yeah.
just opening it up, just whipping out the hundreds. That's insane.
It's wild, man. It's like you learn so much every day. Like, and there's a lot you can't be prepared for, and there's a lot of learning on the job. And so I thought the more experience you have, like. That's why like the more you're in the industry, like the better you'll be, and you'll learn some things, you'll pick up things, and you'll get more clients.
And that's why you're part of that 20%.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I always.
I'm on year 4, and I'm growing every year.
On year 4. I mean, it gets better and better. I don't know what the statistics are after year 1, but I'm saying
that's true. That'd be interesting to look at.
Right?
See where the drop off is.
It's the same with like restaurants. Restaurants fail. Most restaurants fail within their first 5 years.
Yeah, I do know that.
It's really it's a tough world out there to make a buck.
I can't imagine a restaurant now.
Oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. Literally, it's insane what's happening in the world. Lastly, before we end every episode, I always ask you to give advice to people after listening to this who are like, real estate, that's what I want to do. What advice would you give out there for people considering this as their career?
Well, the first thing I'll say, it is not luxurious and magical as you may think it seems from the HGTV TV shows or your Facebook or Instagram of other friends that are agents. It's a lot of work, and if you really want to grow in the industry, you're going to need to put in the hours. You're going to need to know how to market yourself, and you also need to learn that no is, you're going to be hearing the word no a lot, and you have to accept it and realize that not everyone close to you is going to use you as an agent. So make sure to understand and accept that, and you gotta learn to have fun with it too. Like you'll have your good days, you have your bad days, but the days that you find that perfect home for your client, and that smile that you see on their face, it makes it all worthwhile. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but you really understand the feeling like once you experience it.
I can imagine you put in all that hard work. You go out there, especially you spend months and months with a client, searching for that home. That one girl who you showed
become
50
really close.
homes to.
You become close with them.
I can imagine how great you felt when you showed that woman 100 homes and she made that purchase. You were probably like singing and dancing at that closing.
You goddamn right I was. It was relief just washed over me. I'm like, I'm done. I'm glad.
Amazing.
Move on.
Amazing.
She's a great friend though. So
they always do. Yeah, my mom too. A lot of our family friends are people that she sold homes to who we're all super close with, because it's you really form a
you
a
think
relationship.
of all the hours you're with that person.
And
so much you learn.
It's not just the amount of hours you're with the person. It's also you're helping them make a really huge decision that's going to change the landscape of the rest of their life and their family, and that white picket fence or whatever it is, like home. Like you think of like body, mind, soul, home. Like home is very important, and you're a big part of that. And it's not a light decision to make.
And that's what makes it all worthwhile. And it makes those like the bad days just doesn't seem that bad.
James, you're awesome. Thank you for being on the show today.
It was a pleasure, Red. Happy to be here.
Of course, we are gonna hang out soon.
Of course,
we need to get another night of White Claws.
Yes, on me.
I'll accept. I'll take that 5% commission. I'll give you 5%. People, if they want to reach out to you and buy a house from you here in the Baltimore area or anywhere, how can people find you? Do you want to drop your Insta or anything, your email?
Yeah, should I just drop it on here?
You can.
Is it like a board that will show up on the screen?
We'll link it down below. We always put it down on the episode. But for people that are listening who are not watching, you can shout it out.
My name again is James Malone. I am with the Cummings and Company Agency of Realtors, and if you want to reach me by email, it is james@dabarijohnsongroup.com.
As always, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of It's My Job to Know Yours. I'm your host, Red Younger. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, stream us wherever, reach out. Love to hear back from you. Thank you again, and see you on the next one. Thank you. Well, I just did my job, so now it's time for you to do your job, which is to hit that subscribe button. Because if you don't do your job, I'm going to lose my job, and let's face it, I'm qualified for nothing.